Greetings comic lovers and welcome back to Casually Comics, the channel where we chat all things comics, from reviews of comics new and old, to history, to anecdotes, to really wherever our whims take us. So there's always a lot going on in comics if you're trying to undertake the Herculean task of keeping up with all of it as it's happening. There are tons of things I'm following with rapt attention, avidly, but don't talk about. There's just too much. But today we're about to enter one of those realms, one of the many pits I've got my fingers stuck into. Yes, I know that the expression is pots, but when I was typing it, I mistyped it as pits, and that seemed more appropriate. Tom King and his Batman run have been polarizing to say the least. This is if you're closely following the Batman mythos as it unfolds. You may have no strong feelings one way or the other, even if you were following it. We are going to take a look at the 12-issue maxi series that is rumored to have been what was meant to be the end of his Batman run, which was cut short before its initially scheduled 100 issues. For any of this to make sense, I'm going to need to take it back. Lay some groundwork. Come on a journey with me. Do you trust me? Come on to my magic carpet. Tom King came on as the Batman writer in 2016 at the start of the rebirth era of DC. At the time, his coming was heralded and celebrated. He was coming off popular runs in maxi series like Mr. Miracle, which was lauded as a masterful and intriguing take on the character. Like all things, mileage varies. At the start, the buzz surrounding his run was positive, with many critics eager to praise his addition of mature themes into the Batman world. Issue 9 was an example, an early issue where he introduced the idea of Batman having suicidal thoughts. Mental health was quite the hot topic in 2016 and still is, that being it coming into being presented and talked about in popular media. So it hit all the right buttons of discourse at the time, and some really do feel that it was well handled, while for others it began to sow the seeds of concern. However, where the tide of public opinion really began to turn was at the BatCat wedding that was not. Now, for a long-time reader of comics, and one familiar with the general behind-the-scenes attitude towards marriage, which tends to be, kill it with fire, it ruins character momentum, not in my Christian Minecraft server, then you never thought that this wedding was going to happen. But DC promoted it heavily and acted as if it was going to, so some felt that hey, maybe they will, and maybe let's get divorced later on, or we'll reboot the entire timeline or something. But this wedding didn't happen at all, and let's just say fans were not pleased. King claimed he had to go to an upcoming con with a bodyguard, and then there were rumors that the person he brought wasn't actually a bodyguard. It was a whole thing, and as you can tell just by that type of discussion, the tides had turned. It was now a hot mess, the sheen was off the apple, and everything was being regarded differently, through a different lens. The run became more and more maligned, and it seemed to come to a head in Batman 71 when Batman backhanded Tim, who was seeking to comfort him. Debates began to reign as to how far was too far. Was Batman now a self-insert, a stand-in for King's depression? Lots of questions. Although it must be reiterated, some do love this version of Batman and feel that it is nuanced and brings a new emotionality to the character. It wasn't long after this that it was revealed that King was being removed from the run early, being cut off at 85 issues. Coincidence? Perhaps. There were many things going on behind the scenes at the time, but the whys or why nots, whatever they were, resulted in him being given this BatCat maxi series. All of that is what gave rise to the idea that potentially what we are about to read or begin reading is what was meant to be the ending of that Batman run. Was this something that was abruptly cancelled, or is it an entirely new BatCat story? Then a few days before it launched, there was some Twitter kerfuffle, as there often is, because he told a fan who asked that Batman and Catwoman f in this one. They don't, unless shadowy implications count, because I mean, when that person asked that question, seeing as how it's a Black Label book, they probably meant like bam bam. That's a whole other thing. Oh, that tweet has since been deleted, like so many tweets before it. We're in for a journey, as this story is also going to bring in Andrea Beaumont into the Batman verse, main verse timeliney thing, away from the Batman animated series verse, which, you know, she was in Batman Beyond 2, but that evolved out of that. But this is a big moment, basically, allegedly. One of Tom King's story threads was Batman's relationship with happiness, and can he ever be happy? Now, in my opinion, no other work has explored this better than Batman Mask of the Phantasm, which is where Andrea Beaumont initially debuted. It has, in my opinion, one of the most heartbreaking scenes surrounding this question ever. It gets deep into the core of who Bruce is and then just rips out your heart and hands it back to you. It's like, here, enjoy. Now, the longest cold open ever over, let's get started. I'm Sasha, and if you're enjoying this content, you know what to do. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, join us on this comic book journey. I'm working closer and closer to the openings that Selena has in her costume, but I won't, because my underarms will never be as perfect and pristine as a comic book character. This book falls under the Black Label imprint, which was initially billed as the mature imprint for stories too adult for the main line, but some of them definitely feel like we needed a place to put our Elseworld, so here you go. The cover is the one that has been used for all the promos. No background, Batman gazing at something apparently more interesting than us, while Catwoman clings to him as her eyes pierce my soul. I don't know, for me it's a pretty pinup, but not the best cover. It's a bit of a meh cover. Batman and Catwoman, yes, but I don't know, could they maybe be doing something? The variants were more interesting, but also pretty stagnant on the whole. The story is by Tom King with art by Clayman. We open on a Gothic style page, the front of Wayne Manor, with all of the windows and doors numbered, with our first chapter, Silent Night, illuminated. The fact that the last row rows out of order so that 12 can be the centered door causes me untold annoyance, even as I understand it perfectly from an aesthetic perspective. Our next panel is the close-up on a little door being opened, like a dark advent calendar, this one with the mask of the Phantasm beneath. So I hope you like multiple timelines and jumping between them incessantly, because this story sees a linear timeline, chops it up, and scatters the pieces in the wind. We're working through, it seems, like 3 to 4, and that could be added to, shrunk, who knows. Get ready to have more whiplash than Gwen Stacy. We open with the song Silent Night playing across all timelines that are currently being shown. Thankfully, Silent Night is a real song, so you can envision or rather hear the melody in your head, rather than an imaginary song where you kind of have to make up the tune, and that can be a bit distracting. We see old Selena driving, a cat and laugh, because you gotta always stay on brand. Meanwhile, Andrea Beaumont is visiting Bruce, because she's hoping that he'll help her locate her missing son. I'm gonna tell you how things unfold rather than hopping back and forth the way this comic does. Not as incessantly as it does. Because in a way, that's how the story extends itself, pads itself out, and masks the fact that not a lot happens this first issue. This formatting is also meant to build intrigue and mystery, but it only does so if you're willing to entertain it. You have to accept it on its own terms. Hey look, our sex panel! Is that Selena or Andrea? Either way, it's in the past. The pillow is obscuring important hair details. In the future, present, old Selena is visiting an ex-colleague. Is that what you call ex-vigilantes or rogues? Colleagues? While in the past, present. You see, when you present this many timelines and flip through them this rapidly, you can sometimes run into the problem of which is supposed to be the prime one. If this had been in the Tom King run, I would have assumed that the present would be with the prime or youthful Catwoman and Batman. So I guess I will go with that. So here, Batman has enlisted Selena to help him locate Andrea's son, Andrew. Hold up, wait a minute. I have heard that some of these could be different timelines, like parallel ones as well, so add that into the mix of all the things that we're reading. I feel like Batman should have had a bit more of a reaction to Andrea. In the BTS verse, when she showed back up, he was ready to contemplate taking her back and even having those feelings of wanting that Batman-free life again. Here Selena is all, oh, wasn't she your first love? Didn't she die in a fire? So if you're not familiar with the animated series verse, this would be your first introduction to Andrea. And if she's supposed to be this big love, this just feels very kind of throwaway. It doesn't build up any kind of sensation. You need to show emotional resonance, not just tell us about it. But instead we get some making out between Batman and Catwoman on the roof with the whole, oh no, you hang up. No, you hang up. Instead it's about how he has to go stop the Joker because he broke out of Arkham. This is where some have difficulty accepting this BatCat characterization. The idea that she would supersede his commitment to Gotham and being Batman. Especially if we are in a world where Andrea happened. For some, but not all. Our visit between Selena and colleague imparts some information onto the reader, such as the fact that her and Bruce's daughter, Helena, is a member of the LGBTQ+ community. The present takes us to the Sewer King for even more Batman animated series references, as Selena and Bruce hunt for Andrea's missing son. This is as another threat is now introduced. Selena and Joker, they've rendezvoused over a Bertinelli enforcer's corpse, which he says that he killed because he got tired of waiting for her to show up. How about this? Last week, Batman hit me in the neck so hard, my doctor says I will never speak again. I can't tell you how upset I am. It's not funny. You can't say that one out loud. It doesn't work. The comic then parallel panels them as he calls her out for sleeping with Batman. Now normally paneling like that is very intentional, so I can only imagine it speaks to the jealousy he has about that. We all know that Joker feels some kind of way about Batman. Obsessed. We see in our future timeline that there's blood under that welcome mat. We learned that Andrew was in Gotham looking for his dad. Meanwhile, in another time, Catwoman and a very handsome Joker for some reason discuss her and Bruce. Do you know who he is? Yes. Will you kill him for me? No. She says she has to go to him and he tells her this isn't who she is, that she's fun. There's a weird vibe and undercurrent to these scenes. It makes them interesting but also veers a bit towards OOC-ness, that being out of character-ness, which could be because maybe it's another timeline or something, I don't know. Or maybe it's just OOC. Future Selena tells the tale of how Bruce is dead, and then we see that Andrew was found dead and Jokerized. And Andrea says that his father was dead. Here, have a sexy Catwoman. She came for sex with a cat. I have questions. We see in the futures the two mourn that Selena says she's there to kill him for what he did as he begins to remove glasses and a wig to reveal that he is the Joker. Dun dun dun! Man, he's got a lot of liver spots. Take me back to 20s gangster Joker. Wow, old Selena rocking the heels. You go, girl. Or I guess, ma'am. As we look, we see that who appears to be Andrea has unearthed her Phantasm costume. The end. That was $5. I could have had a coffee. That was an amazingly fast read, although it could and would warrant rereading because of all of the multiple timeline stuff and going back to make sure you missed anything or if things connect or if anything didn't make sense. Clayman's art is beautiful. I loved looking at everything, landscapes, people, although I will say that he falls into the trap of samey faces. If you don't like time skips, you are going to be annoyed and potentially confused. For me, all of this hopping around left no breathing room for anything to have any emotional resonance. So things would happen that were supposed to be big or shocking, but they just bounced right off because everything came came across as a bit disjointed.
I get that the pacing was meant to be building to a crescendo.
This reads like something either paced for the trade or will just read better all together in one group, one sitting. Cause this is a it all needs to come together type of tale, which you can pull off in installments to be fair, but for me this felt like it was trying to cram just everything in, the kitchen sink, too much. And yet, not a lot happened. It boils down to Andrea came looking for her son, Selena and Bruce found him dead, allegedly Bruce is dead, and Selena's coming to kill the Joker, and also her and the Joker used to hang out. I don't know, maybe if there had been hardcore this might have been more interesting. Yes, this is just the first issue, but the first issue should really grab you and hook you, pull you in. Consider me the fish that got away. Now, King did seem to be aiming for a lot, although a lot of it was also vague, as he described the work thusly in a 2020 Entertainment Weekly interview. It's about being a good person and a bad person at the same time. It's about the deep anger inside of you and how you deal with that, and how it affects you and those around you. That's in Catwoman, Phantasm, and Batman. This is a very heavy book. It's about death and life and love. But I've never been happier writing. I don't know, I don't feel heavy. In fact, the reverse, I feel light. I am curious to see what they do with Andrea. I hope she's used as more than just a prop to be like Bruce and Selena are endgame. Look at how much better they are than this relationship. If she's gonna be there, I want it to be for a reason. As I mentioned, I have a huge affinity for Batman Mask of the Phantasm. So going into this work, I did have a bit of an attitude of, okay, Mr. King, impress me. So of course, as always, with any review, take it with all the salt you need. That's just me, and I am not you, and I want to hear what you think. If you loved it, I want to hear why. If you're intrigued, what mysteries are you hoping to have answered?
Do you have any theories as to who this boy's father was? Because I do.
Do you feel that Selena needs to ease up on taking cats everywhere? Share all of your thoughts down below. While you're down there, please do all the YouTube things like share, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell notifications so that you never miss a vid. Thanks so much for taking some time out of your day to spend it discussing That was too fast. Thanks so much for taking some time out of your day to spend discussing comics with me. I always appreciate it, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.